Thank you for having our session. Everyone left me.
Like really, just keep on going, keep on going. So we're all there.
So that means you have to hold it down and be like,
Librarian has turned off the lights.
we can have a private discussion for just you guys afterwards.
ما تدريون؟ تعال هاي تعال اختار يلا ما تدريون؟ تعال نعم.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the online conversation bringing mystical Sufi music to modern audiences. Niyaz at Moraine Valley Community College, coming to you live from Palos Hills, Illinois. This webcast is brought to you by the Cultural Exchange Laboratory, which is an initiative of the Association of Performing Arts Professionals, and which receives support from the Doris Duke Charitable Foundation, the Doris Duke Foundation for Islamic Art, and the Robert Sterling Clark Foundation. The live speaking panelists will be introduced to you shortly. I'm Rory McPherson of Trudell McPherson Arts Consulting, and on behalf of the Cultural Exchange Laboratory team, we're all logged into the webinar chat text. We are delighted that you could join us today. I'll be moderating the online chat, and I'll highlight pertinent comments and questions that you post for the moderator, Assad Ali Jafri, so he can pose them to the panelists in the room, especially, but not restricted to, during the dedicated Q&A portion of the presentation that will begin in 1 hour and last for half an hour, so the full webinar will last 1 hour and a half. We'll also be live tweeting at the hashtag CXLNIYAZ, CXL Niyaz. I look forward to hearing and exchanging ideas with you in the chat. And for now, let's give our attention to the speakers in the room live.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. We're here to have a wonderful conversation on bringing mystical Sufi music to modern audiences. I will have you know that not only are you here with us in person, we also have a virtual audience that's joining us online, and they could be anywhere in the world. And that's thanks to the Cultural Exchange Lab that has partnered with us on this. My name is Asad Ali Jafri. I'm a consultant for Mosaics, Muslim Voices in America, which is a new project that is just launching this semester here at Moraine Valley Community College through the Moraine Valley Fine and Performing Arts Center. We do have the managing director with us too, Mr. Tommy Hensel, and we'll hear from him in just a bit. Mosaics is really about bringing artists of different disciplines to this campus over the next 2 years in a residency format and exploring how they intersect with Muslim identity, and they may do that in various different ways. We've already had a visual artist, Mariam Rana, who has come and done an exhibit called A Place Called Home, and you can see that in the art gallery. And right now we have Niyaz, who has been here with us this week so far. I've got to spend 2 incredible days with them so far, and I'm really looking forward to the rest of their workshops and their performance on Saturday that you all should come to as well. Mosaics is supported greatly by the Doris Duke Charitable Foundation, the Doris Duke Foundation for Islamic Art, and APAP, which is the Association of Performing Arts Presenters. So we're really thankful for their support in making this happen. And they're making this happen in a lot of college campuses throughout the country, and have done so for several years as well. We're going to start with Niyaz, which are, of course, our chief guests here. All of the rest of us are pretty much in Chicago, so you can talk to us at other times. But they've come here all the way from California to be with us. And the two people that we have with us are the leads of the group. We have Mr. Loga Torkian and Mrs. Azam Ali. You can kind of make some noise and give them some applause.
Thank you.
And Niyaz is a very notable electro-acoustic group that presents a multimedia show unlike any other. I've only seen the video so far, but from what I've heard Tommy and others say, it's going to be an incredible immersive experience that you don't want to miss. It's a live musical and sacred dance performance with interactive technologies, including advanced projection and body mapping, probably something that none of us have seen before. This specific project that they're going to be performing on Saturday and that they're touring with is called the Fourth Light Project, and it is the story of Rabia al-Basri, the first female Sufi mystic and poet who was born in the 8th century in what is now Iraq. She serves as the main source of inspiration for this production. The group's musical and personal heritage lies in the mysticism and allure of the East. But, as I mentioned, Niyaz was formed in California, and one of their aims has long been to build a bridge between the East and West, a sanctuary from a modern world of polarized ideologies. So before we have them speak to you about what inspires their work and how they kind of convey it to audiences such as these, we're going to watch a short 2-minute clip of the work itself so you can kind of understand what we're talking about. I hope everyone is as excited as I am to see this on Saturday. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Niyaz and specifically Azam and Loka.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. I wish everyone was closer, but it's okay. My name is Azam Ali, and I am the half of Niyaz. The other half is him, and we also we have more musicians, 3 more musicians who will be arriving over the next few days. Just to tell you very little about who we are, I like to begin by saying the meaning of the word Niyaz. For those who don't know, Niyaz is a word that is common in meaning to both Farsi speakers, Turkish, Arabic, and Urdu, and it means yearning. It is meant to reflect a spiritual yearning. And we chose this name because the music that we perform is inspired by the ancient folk music as well as mystical poetry of Iran the ethnic and religious minority groups in Iran, as well as the surrounding regions in the Persian subcontinent. So that is basically what our repertoire is based on, and there are songs in Farsi, in Kurdish, in Turkish, Arabic, Urdu. So it's kind of also, while we are trying to create a bigger bridge between the East and West, we're also trying to create a bridge within our own geographical borders and our region, because that's also very important. In terms of, we started Niyaz in 2005, both my husband and I are children of the Iranian Revolution, so we moved to America as teenagers, and in many ways, we started Niyaz as a platform to remain connected to our cultural roots, but also to be able to reconcile our Iranian identity with our now American identity, and to create a bridge for ourselves in order to be able to create a new kind of homeland, because when you leave your homeland so young, you are stateless in many ways, even if you own a passport. So the music became a homeland for us, and little did we discover little did we know that once we embarked on this journey to create a bridge for ourselves to be able to stand on, there were so many people who were going to join us on this bridge, and it was no longer a bridge about being from the East or from the West, it was a human bridge. And ultimately, what I like to say is that our music, even though it has roots in traditions and cultures, it is meant to transcend religion and culture and boundaries and bring us all together. There's a strong spiritual aspect to what we do, and that's why also the name Niyaz, because when we come to the arts should be a place that elevate us and elevate our consciousness. And in this place, we are able to connect directly as human beings, as souls, and in so doing, hopefully develop empathy for each other's stories, each other's lives, each other's struggles, and realize that deep down we are all one. And this is ultimately what we want to convey with our music. And I hope if you come to the show, this is what you leave with.
My name is Logar Ramin Torkin. I was born in Iran and raised in the United States when I was 14 years old, so I do consider also myself as an Iranian American. And that is very important for me always to say, because as Azam said, as an artist, the best thing you can do is to let your art to be an extension of who you are, and be able to reconcile those elements that you struggling within yourself, and somehow be able to unify it and express it in your art. And that honesty is the thing that will be able to be communicated with your audience, is one thing that we're all striving for. This particular project, Fourth Light, is a multimedia project, and therefore it has an aspect of technology within it, which we are very proud of. It's interactive in a sense that all the visuals are triggered either by the movements that are taking place on stage by the dancers or Azam, or sonically. There are the different spectrum of the sound causes differences or different triggers in the visuals, and that allows a certain synchronization to take place and enhance the musical experience that we're trying to create. It's not meant to be dominant, but it is meant to be there to support what we do as musicians on stage. Obviously, it was a very conscious effort to create something that it is captivating. The content of it comes from cultural aspect that we relate to. It's not just a psychedelic series of abstract images, but it is really related to calligraphy. It's things that we grew up with, architectural elements that comes from our region. And then therefore it's been manipulated and shaped in a digital world so that there is a certain element of modernism, which again comes from the fact that we do live here. We are bombarded by a lot of images, and we have internalized that, and so therefore it has become part of our expression. There was a great effort to make this, to do it such a way that it is easy to travel with. I mean, this kind of technology has been around, but it's been mostly used in like arenas, shows, and huge productions. But we were very conscious to make sure that we can bring this to in such a way that we can implement it in the small spaces and theaters and not make a huge demand upon presenters like Tommy, that they can look at the project and say, oh, you know what, I can't do this in my theater. It is possible, still dazzling, but you know what, we can pull this off. So that's another side of the project.
Do you want me to say anything about the Fourth Light project, just the Rabia? So I know you briefly said it in the description, but this project is loosely follows the life of our first female Sufi mystic and saint from the 8th century. She was born in what is considered today to be modern Iraq. Unfortunately, growing up in Iran, we never learned about her. She was not included in our history books and many of our poetry books as well. And this is why we wanted to pay tribute to her in this production. So it tells loosely the story of her life. She was born into a very poor family, and she eventually went on to get married, but she renounced the world and renounced her life, went to live in the desert, and when she returned after years, she had achieved enlightenment, and she wrote a series of poems, and she is best known and credited with creating the concept of divine love, which is that she returned to say that we love God for the sake of love itself and not out of the fear of hell or the promise of heaven. So this was a very revolutionary idea at that time, when so much of religion was intertwined with fear, and she just created a new path, and actually her concept of divine love became the heart of what we consider to be modern Sufi mysticism. So for us, she plays a very important role in our history, and for me as a woman, especially a woman who is an artist, she represented for me the very first feminine, the very first symbol of feminine liberation in the East. And I think during a time when there's so much negative media about Islam, about the oppression of women in our region, it's very important to shine a light, a positive light, on our region, and especially that there have been women who made great contributions to our part of the world and to celebrate their lives. So this production loosely follows her life, but in not a very literal way. It's a much more symbolic way, because symbolically it also represents all of our lives, regardless of what our race is, our religion is. We are all born, we all struggle, and we all ultimately are looking for liberation in some form or another. So at the end, it's once again circles back to the idea that it's the human journey. So that's basically what the Fourth Light Project is.
Great, thank you. And we'll have time for questions and answers at the end, so stay tuned for that as well. Next, I'd like to pass it over to Tommy Hensel, who's the Managing Director of the Fine and Performing Arts Center here at Moraine Valley. He's actually in his 10th season, so if you haven't seen him before or been over to the center, you should probably go at some point. He's been putting on some great work. Besides his work here, he's quite a Renaissance man. He's an author, a food blogger. He's, of course, an arts presenter and theater director, but he's also a cabaret singer and a holistic health practitioner. So definitely somebody you want to get to know on campus. And I've had the pleasure of working with him for several months now. And we're going to ask Tommy why he thought bringing Niyaz was a good idea for Moraine Valley, and especially why as the first kind of artist in residence.
Thank you, Asad. And so this project, as Asad mentioned earlier, is a 2-year project. It was funded by the Doris Duke Charitable Foundation and the Doris Duke Foundation for Islamic Art and APAT. So their focus, as Assad said, is a broader one, perhaps, than ours. So what they asked all the colleges to do, they gave out 7 grants to colleges in this round of granting. They asked us all to find a specific project that spoke to our population at our college. And so when we were writing the grant, we had focus groups of people from all around the community, from the campus, and the overwhelming concept that seemed to keep rising to the top when people said this is what we would like to happen with this grant was exploring personal stories and exploring that narrative that in the media right now, and particularly from the political arena right now, there's this very negative stereotype being perpetuated about Muslims in America that somehow or other you cannot be Muslim and American at the same time, that they're mutually exclusive. So we decided that we were going to explore American artists whose work is rooted in the cultures of the many different Islamic societies around the world, and explore their personal stories so that people could get to know them, get to understand the diversity of the Muslim world, but also the diversity of all the people around them right here in the United States that are practicing artists whose work somehow reflects where they came from, where they are, and who they are. So in crafting a season, what an arts presenter does, many of you probably don't know the word presenting, is an arts presenter is someone who has a theater and they book artists to perform in that theater, usually for one night or maybe 2 nights, every once in a while maybe longer, but it's usually different types of performers all through a season. So in my case, we have a vast number of performances this year. They're all very different. Looking at booking for this program, I saw, again, a vast number of possibilities. There's so many amazing artists out there who are touring the country. But when I ran across this project, the Fourth Light Project, I stopped, I looked at it, I talked to the agent who represents the project, and it spoke to me on a level that many other projects didn't. So I chose it as the first major component of this 2-year program for a number of reasons. First, the artistic quality is incredibly high. They have a long history of touring. They have a number of albums that are all spectacular. This project, I think, is special in many ways. So artistically, the quality is tremendously high. Second, it met all of the criteria of what I was looking for in this project called Muslim Voices in America, because they are telling a story about someone, but in that process, they're telling their own stories as well. They're sharing pieces of their own life, their own philosophy, and the entire project came together because of who they are. Nobody else could have put this project together in the way that they did. So what you see on stage is not just a loose sort of story of the life of Rabia al-Basri. It's actually Loga and Azam and Tanya Evanson, who's a whirling dervish, and the other performers all sharing pieces of their own spiritual journey and personal journey. So for me, the idea that an audience can sit there and be immersed in this art and in that process not just learn something about Rabia al-Basri and about the music, but learn something, whether they know it or not, about these performers and who they are. And in the process, you then learn something about yourself. So for me, all the pieces were there. And then, like any good presenter, when I think I want to book something, I'll call other people who have worked with artists. I didn't tell Azam and Logan this. I did a little sneaky research behind their backs, and I said, look, you've worked with them before. What are they like? And overwhelmingly, people said, oh, you have to work with them. They're amazing. They're the nicest people. On and on and on. I got nothing but positives, because as we know, there are artists out there who may be beautiful on stage, but they're not easy to deal with backstage or off stage, and I don't want that, because I think that an audience picks that up. Even if the art is beautiful, if the artist is not really connected to what they're doing, the audience is going to get that. So once I found that out and I heard how wonderful they were to work with, it was a done deal for me at that point, because it was a perfect opening for this 2.5-year program called Mosaic, Muslim Voices in America. So that's really kind of the reason why I chose it. I'm excited also because of the grant opportunity that we're able to offer tickets to students for free to this performance. So anybody who's a student can come get a ticket. You can go right now after this session today to the box office and pick up free tickets as students. The same with the other major projects that we're doing throughout the 2 years. Anything that's part of this project is going to be free for students, and not just Moraine Valley students, but students anywhere who want to come. One of the things that I would say, because we have a virtual audience here, and many of the people who are probably watching us on the internet right now are arts presenters like I am, because they did market this to a lot of presenters. And what I would say to my fellow presenters is that, you know, I looked at the technical specifications of this show, and my first response was, ooh, I don't know if we can do this or not. But then digging into it a little bit deeper, we discovered, yes, we can absolutely do this. They have scaled this show in such a way as presenters that I have a 600-seat house. I can do this in a 600-seat house as successfully as anyone in a 1,200 or 1,800 or 2,000-seat house could do, because it's scaled in that way. And honestly, I think it's probably more powerful in a medium to a small size house like ours. And the last thing that I would also say to my fellow presenters out there in the virtual world is that if you are looking, as most of us are as presenters, looking for a project that will cause transformative change in your audience, this is a perfect project for that, particularly if you link some of their educational outreach to the project. They're here for the full week and teaching a number of workshops for us. And as a presenter, I have to say that the depth of what they can dig into in those workshops and the experience of the show itself is a transformative experience. And so all of us on college campuses particularly are always looking for shows that we can find ways to engage into the curriculum across campus, to reach multiple diverse audiences, that touch all sorts of points that in a college we need to touch, because we're here as educators as much as we're here as artists. And so this is a beautiful fusion of arts and education as well, particularly if you're a presenter and you decide to book some of the residency work. I had the pleasure of going to Iowa 2 weeks ago to see this performance at the University of Iowa, who is also a grantee in this program. And I thought when I came back that I would have a better way to explain this show to people, and I honestly don't. I now discovered that what I can say that I couldn't say before is that you have to simply sit and allow this show to wash over you and through you. You will be drawn into the art. The digital scenography will make you feel like you are part of this performance. It's not just sitting out in the audience and watching a show. You are part of this journey, and you will go through this journey with Tanya Evanson, the Whirling Dervish, with Azam and Loga and the rest of the artists. You'll experience this movement from darkness through chaos to illumination that this show is all about. So I cannot recommend it more highly to my fellow presenters, but also to all of you in the audience here, the live audience here at Moraine Valley. I do hope we see all of you in the audience, because I know no matter what it is, you will be different when you leave than you were when you arrived, in whatever way that will resonate to you, but I guarantee that that will happen.
Thank you, Tommy. Again, the concert is this Saturday at 7:30, and it's free to students, so there should be no excuse not to attend. Also, there's 2 workshops that anybody can attend. They're both free. One is tomorrow night, that's for musicians, or people who are interested in music, and it's on Turkish and Persian music at 5 p.m. And then there's another workshop on Friday with our Whirling Dervish, Tanya, which is at 6 p.m. Again, these are open to the public, and the more the merrier, so please do come. Next up, we have another Moraine Valley favorite. We have Professor Amani Wazwaz, who earned her doctorate from Loyola University. Her areas of specialty were cultural studies in 19th and 20th century American literature in a multicultural context. At Moraine Valley, she teaches composition, American literature, African American literature, non-Western literature, and non-fiction creative writing. At St. Xavier University, she taught Middle Eastern literature for close to 10 years. Her research interests center around the writings and speeches of Frederick Douglass. She's going to join us as an academician and talk about a little about the intersection between Sufism, the story of Rabi al-Basri, and as well as the artistic expression that comes from it.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So this will be my presentation, Sufism, Artistic Expression, and Rabat Adawiyya. And I will begin with this photo of a lovely, this is how we come into the world. And according to Islam and Sufism, that stresses this part of Islam, God plants a seed in all of our hearts. And this seed is for us to love God, and to seek God. It is in each and every single one of us. You have a heart, you have a soul, and the purpose of the heart is to love. Are you going to love anybody? Just about anybody? No. You're going to love a being, the one who is very superior, who is supreme, who is flawless. You're going to put all your heart and soul into loving God and seeking God. We're human. We're frail. We are sinners. And God isn't. And that is why we fill our hearts with God. We journey towards finding God, finding the one who does not have our flaws, our depressions, our anxieties, the one who is free of that. And so we try our best to move towards there. And this is where our eyes are constantly directed, to be directed. Our heart and our eyes are to constantly be on God. Because if for a split second we move away, we're already falling away. For a split second, our eyes, our souls should be full with the love of God. And when the Sufis say our eyes and our hearts should be full of God, it can be our actual eyes, but it's also our metaphorical eyes. I would like for you to take a look at the segment of Color of Paradise. It's an amazing movie from Iran. How many of you have seen it in the audience? If you haven't, please remember the title. Okay, I see that Azam has. If you haven't, please watch it. It demonstrates the tenets of Islam and Sufism in an absolutely remarkable way. The little boy, Muhammad, is blind, and his father does not like him. His father shows him he does not like him, and he rejects him. And in this one particular clip, Muhammad feels so much sorrow because he feels nobody likes him, not his father, not even God, because he feels that even God, by making him blind, has dismissed him.
چیه تو داری گریه میکنی؟ مرد که گریه نمیکنه. هنوز نیامده دلت برای خانواده تنگ شد؟ پس چی؟
میدونی چیه؟ هیچکی منو دوست نداره. عزیزم منو دوست نداره. چون بینایی ندارم همه میکنن دستم فرار. اگه چشم داشتم میرفتم مدرسه روستا. همه بچه های روستا میرن اونجا درس میکنن. غیر از من که باید برم مدرسه نامیرم که اون برای دنیاست. معلم میگه خدا شما نابینا ها رو بیشتر دوست داره چون نمیبینید. ولی من گفتم اگر ما رو دوست داشت نابینا نمیکرد به اونو نبینید. ولی اون گفت خدا دیدنی نیست، همه جا هست، شما میتونید اونو حفظ کنید. شما میتونید با دستاتون ببینید. خداوند همه جا رو میکردم تو بالاخره گردی دستم به خدا بخورم همه چیز رو بهش بگم، حتی هر چی توی دلم.
معلمتون راست گفت.
Okay, I've shown this to some of my classes, and I've shown the whole film, and students of mine would oftentimes end up crying at this particular scene. After Muhammad expresses all of the sadness that his father has rejected him, and God has even rejected him as well too by making him blind, he recalls that one day a teacher of his told him, because God made you blind, it does not necessarily mean that God dislikes you, because God is meant to be felt and experienced with the heart. And if you notice, what Muhammad has done throughout his life after this moment is he moves on and he touches. He touches plants, he touches flowers, he touches his grandmother's face, because he ends up saying, ultimately, my dream is one day I will reach out and God will touch me. Like Muhammad, we are restless. We constantly, in this world, it's not an easy world. And what this offers is we're constantly seeking God, we're constantly journeying toward God. We not only want to journey to God, but we also want to ultimately join God. The way that one Sufi teacher explains it is this way. Do you see the light inside of the lantern? That light is our quest to unite with the divine. It is our love. It is our hope to be with God completely one of these days. But the way this Sufi teacher explains it is this way. You also, that light needs to have that glass container. Otherwise, it will be dispersed in a very uncomfortable way. And he explains that glass container as Islam. This is Islam. This is the proclamation that God is one and that Prophet Muhammad is the messenger. It's the proclamation of the oneness of God, praying daily, fasting, giving to charity, going on a pilgrimage, and being virtuous. Islam, submission, is very significant. It's the container. Iman is the second part, having true beliefs. And the third part, ihsan. You know, you can pray, but if you're thinking of, well, I gotta do my laundry, I gotta grade, I gotta do a million other things, it's not completely a prayer. It isn't. There has to be, you have to be present. Ihsan is about talking, praying, acting as if God is there and God is watching you. Ihsan is about being a good person. It's all together. We are all together, the light, but we need to be contained. The story of the quest. We want to be with God. We want to live virtuous lives. It is dramatized tremendously in Sufi artistic expressions, in poetry, in short stories, in dance. More than half of you in the audience more than likely know the story of Layla and Majnun. Please, most of you tell me, what is Majnun? What is it? Crazy. You are definitely right. He is crazy because he loves who? Okay. Layla, and then somebody said Allah, all right. So scholars have said, yeah, it could be Layla, it could be a woman that he loves, but Layla could also be a symbol of God. That what he is doing, he has become crazy because he is searching for God. There's more. The Conference of the Birds is another beautiful example of great Sufi poetry. And it is by the amazing Persian, 13th century Persian author, Farud ad-Din Attar. In this story, there are these birds, and they are seeking to find the king. Read metaphor. We are the birds, and the king is Allah, the king is God. But the birds are terrified. The journey is very tough. Many times they ask their teacher bird, But I am a sinner. I have sinned. I have done wrong. Every now and then this world pulls me back. And the teacher explains to them, use your pain, the pain that you feel at having sinned, to channel you forward so that you go on the path of virtue and reach God in a better way. This is a long, beautiful poem that uses animal imagery in order for us to understand our journey towards connecting with God. There's more from Attar, the moth and the flame. There are these moths that attempt to go near the flame. Well, again, read metaphor. Moths are us human beings. The flame is God. The first two are terrified. They go close, but they never get quite near. But only once eventually goes into the fire and is totally engulfed by the flame. Why is it that this moth was able to be engulfed? Because this moth forgot about himself. This moth was very ready to give up who he is so that he could join with the divine. I mention this because there is so much Sufi poetry and literature out there that is beyond amazing. Music, poetry, dance. But I also mention Attar because he has a lot to do with what we have here with Azam, Logan, with Niyaz. It was Attar who gathered the story about Rabba Adawiya, and he compiled it, and he compiled her story together. It was because of him, writing 500 years later, that we know about her. And her story, Azam told part of it, is indeed she came from a very poor family. Her mother and father passed away. Her sisters were dispersed. Unfortunately for Rab'a, she was sold as a slave. And Rab'a would not sleep. She would spend her nights praying and fasting. And her slave master one day was very much amazed because while she was praying, he noticed wherever she went, there was a lantern that was following her around. Now, Turks, Egyptians have made movies about her. If you see on your left, there is a picture of Rabba. She's bathed in green light. And the one that's closer to the right it comes from an Egyptian movie that actually shows the lantern moving around. She is a very fascinating woman. She gave herself up so that she can connect with the divine. Her poetry is absolutely amazing. Your hope in my heart is the rarest treasure. Your name on my tongue is the sweetest word. My choicest hour are the hours I spend with you. Oh Allah, I can't live in this world without remembering you. How can I endure the next world without seeing your face? I am a stranger in your country and lonely among your worshippers. This is the subject of my complaint. The source of my suffering and loneliness is deep in my heart. This is a disease no doctor can cure. Only union with the friend being God, can cure it. O God, if I worship thee in fear of hell, burn me in hell. And if I worship thee in hope of paradise, exclude me from paradise. But if I worship thee for thine own sake, withhold not thine everlasting beauty. Rabba lived roughly 1,300 years ago, is still very much alive in many people's hearts. Palestinian families, some of them speak with her with so much love and affection. In Egypt, there is a lot of love when they speak of her. Turks as well too, in different parts of the Middle East, she is spoken of as a great symbol, as an amazing human being who has shown, look, It's possible. You can journey to the divine. You can be a very good person, and you can give your all to God. And she just remains. I remember like hearing about her ever since I was young and just becoming very fascinated by her. It gives me a bit of a chill that here I am today, college professor, speaking about her. Thank you so much, all of you.
Thank you, Professor, for that additional insight and some of the background to the work that will be presented. Next up, we have a student from Moraine. We have Hannah Asfar, who is the student trustee for 2017 to 2018 here at Moraine Valley. This is Hannah's second year at Moraine Valley, and she currently resides in Oak Lawn. At Moraine, she's also involved in several clubs and organizations, including the Arab Student Union, Student Government Association, Women in Action, and Phi Theta Kappa. Hannah is pursuing her associate's degree in science from Moraine Valley and plans on continuing her education at either Benedictine University or Loyola University, where she will major in health science and apply for either physician assistance programs or medical school. We've asked Hannah to discuss how and why this content and what Niyaz has to offer appeals to the student population and what it can hope to accomplish. Hannah?
Thank you for that introduction, and I just want to say hello to everyone and thank you for having me here and being able to speak on behalf of the students here at Moraine. So like you said, I basically had to talk about what or how and why this work appeals to students and then what it can be accomplished. So if it really wasn't for my position here or, you know, as a student trustee or even as a student here, I probably wouldn't have been as interested in learning about Sufism. I feel like many students can attest to this, and it's very, I guess, an unfamiliar, you know, subject here in like Moraine Valley or even just our community as a whole. Sufism is not really popular, I feel like, in this area just because of the fact that many people who are here are from Palestinian descent or Jordan or, you know, not really the countries where Sufism is prominent. So this project as a whole, I feel like it really helps to shed light on Sufism and then how it also connects to Islam and also how it differs, but it has its own way and how it connects as well. So the Fourth Light project, as I guess it's been mentioned earlier, basically blends, you know, ancient Sufi poetry and the folk songs from, you know, the Middle East all the way up to Central Asia. And so being inspired, you know, by, as Professor Waslos was saying, by Rabia, this is like something that's so cool to me because I really never learned about her before, and just, you know, having the opportunity once again to learn about her, you know, through this project, I feel like is something that I wouldn't have had before. So I really didn't know before that she was, you know, a feminist, a very prominent person in, you know, feminism and philosophy and just as Sufism as a whole. You know, I'm taking a philosophy class right now. Her name really isn't mentioned. You know, we always hear about Socrates or Aristotle, but, you know, Rabia being a philosopher, she's not really mentioned a lot. So once again, this project really gives the opportunity for us to learn about her and learn about her works and just how she really did inspire a lot of people. I feel like a lot of students here should be, you know, here at these panels or going to you guys' performances or just being a part of the Mosaics project as a whole, because the whole entire point about being here in college is to, you know, expand our horizons and just be open-minded, and this project is really all about being open-minded and just blending different cultures with one another and just learning as a whole. So, as I mentioned before, you know, Sufism is not really prominent here, but it's definitely great that we have an opportunity to learn about it. And then also, let's see, I just feel like as a whole, it's just a great way to just learn about Islam and Sufism, how they connect to one another, how they differ, and then just, you know, giving us more insight to this. So I would like to thank everyone for this opportunity. Thank you guys for the Fourth Light Project. Thank you guys for coming to Moraine Valley and just really letting us learn about you guys and what you guys have to offer.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah. We do want to open it up to questions and answers, but we have a little bit of time, so I'm wondering if the panel itself has questions for each other and wants to kind of dig in a little bit in the 5 to 10 minutes we have before we open it up to the audience.
I actually do have one question that I've asked you this before in other contexts. But going back to the technological piece, why technology? Why did you feel the need to blend this technology into this performance?
Thank you for asking that question, Tommy. I mean, trying to enhance our experiences is, and utilizing technology is nothing necessarily new.
You're too far. It's
all right. You can tell we are men. And essentially, you know, in the old days, we would utilize kinetic energy. We would try to make better instruments, create halls that enhances our experiences. The sound would resonate more, or if it was a theatrical piece, we would make sure that the lighting is just spectacular. And then came the next stage, which I call it the amplification era. We learned how to amplify and still enhance our experiences and make it better. Now we are at an age that is a digital age, which allows us to kind of in real time to mold and to change things that we put out there. And I felt like we are now dealing with a generation that it is accustomed to experience things through that nature. For example, I always say everybody under any picture that they want to put on social media, without consciously or unconsciously, they pass it through some filter before they post it. And this is just a picture of family or something that they went to see. Why do we do that? Because we want to enhance the experience for those who are seeing it, even if it's our friends. So as an artist, we felt like there is so much available to us, and in order to be able to communicate with our audience, we have to take this step and embrace it and bring it, understand its complexity, yet be able to relate it to who we are and represent it in a context that makes sense. I think that part is very, very important to me, because it is really at this time that I always like to say that, in secular societies, art has an obligation to lead humanity. And humanity, in order to cultivate that, we have to first cultivate empathy. Empathy comes from sharing our living experience. When you come to that, see a show, what our intention is to make you live through something, to kind of let you get immersed and experience something with us. That makes empathy, hopefully. And we are trying to share an aspect of our lives expressed in our art form. And through that, we become closer to each other, essentially.
Thank you, Tommy and Loba. Anyone else want to kind of ask each other anything?
I have a question for Azam. Azam, when did you learn about Rabah, and how did you feel when you learned about her, and what did she end up meaning to you?
I became very angry when I learned about her, because I said, how did I not know about her when I was a little girl, and I was looking for female role models that I could relate to, So, we have done 4 albums now, and every album we dedicate to one mystic poet. And our very first album was on Rumi, and then the rest followed. And when we came to work on the new album, it was before we even created the Fourth Light project, the multimedia project. We were talking with Tanya, who is our female whirling dervish, and actually she said, why don't we do it on Rabia? I'm sorry, you call her Rabah, I call her Rabia, the Persian way. And it was like this light just went out, and when you talk about the lantern, there was this light, and we all just got goosebumps. And so we started researching, and it was so difficult to find her poetry and anything about her, because it was just lost, And so it was a process of being very upset in the beginning that she was left out of our history books, solely because she was a woman. But on the other hand, we felt a great sense of pride and responsibility that we should tell her story, and not that I am qualified to tell her story, but I am part of this beautiful thread that connects all of us. It's a thread of humanity which weaves together all our cultures, all our struggles, everything that we yearn for, you know, on this journey of life. And for me as a woman, it was so important to tell her story, but through my eyes. I don't feel I'm really representative of her, so to speak, you know. And as Tommy said, you know, what's really wonderful about all the artists who I work with and we all collaborate with, it's we are all experiencing her through our own stories, and that's what makes it really amazing. And I really encourage people. I've talked about her countless times, and because of this project, so many people, especially women, thank me. They write to me and say, I never knew about her, now I'm going to go read about her and discover her. And it's amazing for us, because she really is, for us, the first feminist of the Middle East, you know, and mystic and poet. She's everything, you know.
Thank you, guys. Anyone else? Or should we open it up to the audience? All right. If anyone in the audience has a question, I'll also be fielding virtual questions here. So,
and I'll pass the mic around in the audience.
You can just kind of raise your hand and we'll call on you.
Somebody must have a question.
I just wanted to know, when I knew that I was coming to your workshop, I was trying to read and Google everything I could about Sufism. And I learned that there's only one center here in Chicago. And like you said, it's not real known or around here. But anyway, my question, if you can practice Sufism without becoming a Muslim, or am I trying to say, are the two connected? Do you have to, Islam and Sufism, are they two different things, entities, or are they one and the same? Because I understand that it's the spiritual, the divine.
Yes.
But wouldn't that be also in Islam? Would they not teach that?
So, actually, that's a very good question. And the way I would start answering it is that actually a lot of people say that Sufism and the roots of Sufism in the region is actually pre-Islam. In fact, Islam is a very young religion. It only came about around 620 AD. So one thing that happens is that often when we talk about Islamic cultures, we deprive all those regions from their previous history, including their mysticism. And there was civilization there was a lot of practices, and just like in any other regions, those kind of continued and came a part of the new web of these societies. And one of them is Sufism. In fact, Sufism can be, the way I look at it, is that we have two in every religion or every philosophy, we have two aspects. We have the outer aspect, which was the code of conduct, and then we have an inner journey. That has actually specific terms in Sufism. We call it Shariat or Sharia, it's very well known. These are the external code of conduct. And then you have Tariqat, which is your internal and personal practices. Sufism never denies the Sharia because, of course, it was in Islamic governed societies. So it had to adapt to that. But the emphasis always remained in the inner path, in how you dealing with your own evolution within inside yourself. And the will, nafas, and all of these are the prominent focus and not the Sharia.
So to answer your question, because we should answer her question, you do not have to become a Muslim to become a Sufi, for example. And the Sufis actually, especially in Iran and Turkey, in many of the regions, in many of the countries in our region, the Sufis are the minorities, and they have suffered great oppression. And that's another reason why we really work to, we are part of that lineage. So for us, it's very important to also speak about this, not just in the outside community, but also within our own communities, of trying to dispel these prejudices and sort of, as Hannah said, especially with young people, to so that we all kind of break these kind of misconceptions that we have. And it's to really simplify it, it's a very mystical path, and in some ways I feel Christianity also has that. There are very similar elements. I know Christians who would not identify as Christians, but they practice the more mystical aspects of Christianity and Sufism. That aspect of it, because you're dealing with the more inner journey of the human soul, it cannot be put into words as much or made into laws as much. And so it's, to answer your question, yes, you can.
And it's practiced in so many different ways. I mean, you go to different countries, different regions, and Sufism is practiced.
We do have an online question that I'll go and then we'll do an audience and back to online. So this is for both the Niyaz artists. How hard a sell was your program to presenters across the country, and what was your breakthrough experience?
Wow.
I'm out of here.
He's saying I'm out of here. No, actually, I would say we are still trying to break through. It's it was not easy just to create the project. We've talked about this with a lot of the presenters, is that when we went to look for funding to create the show, every door got closed in our face because it was just seemed too ambitious. To create an interdisciplinary production and really bring it to a small stage. Nobody could understand how we were going to really accomplish that. So we kind of funded the project ourselves. We got a loan against our house, and for 2 years we funded it, we created it, and then we presented it. And we presented it in Montreal originally. And the presenters who were able to be there and come and see it were really impressed. So we got a few invitations. That I would consider to be the breakthrough moment, because from that point on, the word started spreading. And it's really happens with visionary presenters like Tommy. I mean, Tommy is kind of, he falls into a different class altogether because he's also an artist, and he's, he takes risks, so it requires a special kind of presenter to even want to take a chance on a show like this. So we do count on, it's such a synergy of artists and presenters and technicians, and it takes so many of us to create a moment like this. No one person can take credit for it, and we depend greatly on presenters to be visionary and to be able to be willing to take risks. So we are continuing to battle that. I told Tommy that still we have yet to perform in LA where we live. So it's not easy by any stretch of the imagination.
Thank you. We'll take one from the audience.
Hi, my name is Suzanne Nasser, and I'm a full-time faculty member here in the counseling department. I don't necessarily have a question because I wouldn't really even know where to start. I'm just so thankful that I was able to tear myself out of the office and come here to hear this wonderful workshop and to be more informed. I'm so looking forward more than ever to seeing your performance on Saturday. Again, I encourage everyone in the audience, if you haven't picked up your tickets, to do so. And thank you again for being here. And I too would be one of those who would write you, Azam, to say thank you for introducing Rabia and for being here, and thank you for being a visionary. I think it's the perfect way to put it and to take calculated risks to bring these artists to our campus.
Thank you, Tommy.
So thank you,
Tommy's the hero of the hour.
Thank you.
Well, speaking of Tommy, there's a question for you.
Let me come back to the table for that. Hold on.
Okay.
So the question for Tommy, coming from Twitter, is what type of educational resources do you feel are most effective in reaching students around this type of work?
Oh, that's a tough question. I would say, for me, the the fact that there are so many different types of educational resources that they offer. So you have many different points of entry. So I think to answer that to another presenter, I would say they have workshops that are more academic. They have workshops that are more participatory. They have some that focus on music, some that focus on movement. So there you have a whole array of different ways that you can get students and faculty and community members interested in the work. So what I like about the offerings that they have is that no matter how you learn, whether you're an audio learner or kinesthetic learner or a visual learner, any of that, there are different points of entry. So I think to answer that question, it's because there's a variety. And I think for me, if I had to pick one, I think the participatory workshops are the strongest way to reach students. Because when you allow somebody to actually get involved in something, whether it's through physical movement or through singing, or in some way that it's not just sitting there having information imparted to you, I think the participatory workshops are the big key for me.
Maybe you can say a few of the topics that, for example, were interesting for you that we covered.
Okay, so this afternoon at 6 p.m. they're doing a class called Feminism in the East. So that in itself was something I would never have thought of when I first saw the video of this show, but then it makes total sense when you understand the genesis of the show. So there's that, but they also have a workshop on Persian and Turkish musical theory. That's an interactive workshop, so students can bring instruments with them. They'll learn more about the music theory from the region and be able to play some of that music. The workshop that was the most intriguing to me is the Sufi whirling workshop, where Tanya will come in and explain what is the purpose of turning and whirling, and also teach those who want to participate, teach them how to do it. So
when is that?
Yeah. So that workshop is Friday at 6 p.m. We're spreading them out all through the week, but I think that was the one that that intrigued me the most first. But then I saw the feminism workshop and thought, wow, that's a whole different take on it. And then the music theory, because my undergraduate degree is in music, so I'm all over music theory. I'm kind of a geek for music theory, so I'm excited about that workshop as well.
I think the other thing is that they have it very structured, so you can kind of see exactly what there is to offer, and you know exactly what they have. But then they're also willing to be flexible once you talk to them and say, well, this is what we're really looking for, and then they can kind of tweak it to your needs. So I think that's been a great match.
Yeah, so one of the great things about working with both Azam and Loga is that if you say to them, hey, we have this class that's learning X, whatever it is, they'll say, oh, yeah, we can talk about that, and they will. And so, they're very flexible, and they have such a broad body of knowledge about this work that they can in a college environment particularly, they can actually help the presenter to integrate into the curriculum in many different ways.
And yes.
First of all, I want to thank you. Thank you. Maybe my language is not what we to explain everything.
Just speak from your heart, we will understand.
Thank you very much. First of all, I thank you for Moraine Valley, especially community college, for open for Arab Islamic people to study here, all the subjects. Then they help us to study without pay money. Really, this is I'm saying. In fact, I feel that is very, very good because we feel that we are free here, and we are studying in beautiful, really, community college. But I would like to say that for Islamic people, we have big problem now about this is the new happen for different ideologies. That we found out Shia and Sunni and Sufi and Islamic radicalism or Almani. This is our problem now. Then we don't feel it before that, before 2 or 3 or 5 years. We don't feel that. this different religion. It's now we have bigger problem for this, especially for artists now. It's very difficult. It's changed. You found like we have a movie for Prophet Yusuf. They did in Iran. Believe me, in Egypt, different ways to. This is our problem now. Believe me, this is problem now. We would like to concentrate for this idea because we have
yes, I understand what you're saying. I mean, really, to simplify it, I think one of the reasons we also believe that as a young generation growing up is one of the things we always say is that you cannot have peace outside your geographical border if you don't have peace within your own geographical borders. And already within our own societies, we have so much prejudice and problems right now. So this is another important reason why we need to all come together and work as a community to change this, you know, so that between us we are not fighting, because right now that's also, as you said, a big problem. But I think to say it in a simple way, as Iranian Americans, let's say, for me, I believe that everything that you just said, whether it's Muslims who identify as Shia or Sunnis or all this, I think we are all in our own way, one way or another, we are experiencing a kind of reform, and we are trying to come to terms with what it means to live, whether it's as a Muslim or a Sufi or however, how do we live in an American society and live peacefully and live freely as a citizen, you know. So I think it's a very long and continuing process and conversation, but I hope that art can be a big part of it, because there is a lot of really rich art, and art has the capacity to bring people together. And it's a language that is beyond religion and culture, so it's a language that we all understand. We all love music, we all love poetry. So we just have to continue to have conversations in higher ways.
Thank you. Do we have anything else in the audience, or
anything else?
Online one? All right, there is an online one that's for Azam specifically. How are you hoping the story of Rabia will inspire women who are so challenged in many traditional societies? How did she inspire you?
Well, I think in many ways, you know, I'm not, I don't, as an Iranian woman, I never fit into the mold of the traditional role of what it means to be a Middle Eastern woman. You know, when I told my mother I wanted to be a singer and an artist and compose music and perform on a stage, I mean, she was just horrified. You know, she just thought, you know, why are you doing this to me? You know? So it, you know, and then later when I began to create and, you know, she saw that I was having a positive impact on my community, but not just Iranian community, but that I was able to bring so many people of different backgrounds together, she started to see that there is another way, you know, another path for me, and she became one of my biggest champions. So, you know, but the struggle that I had is that I feel that if I had grown up with a role model like Rabia, or, you know, maybe I would not have had to struggle as much as I did, because I would not have had to, you know, go through all the tumultuous experiences that I had. You know, women, like, the reason we need role models is because they give us courage. They give us courage to be who we are. That if she can do it, I can do it. And I knew I was not going to be a traditional woman in that sense. So, you know, she inspired me to follow my heart and be who I am. And I really hope that I can be that also for another young, whether it's an Iranian or Arab or Palestinian girl who's growing up and maybe does not feel that she wants to be a nurse or a doctor or a lawyer, that maybe she wants to paint or write books, you know, that she feels that, you know, if Azam can do that, then I can do that. And that the community will rise to support her. We need not just to have role models, but our communities to let our women be what they want to be, you know.
Thank you. We have time for just a couple more, so if anybody in the audience has a question, please feel free. And I think we're done with the online questions.
I'll come out with the mic if anybody has a question.
First. My name is Nushin, and I'm Iranian American, and I just want to say you make me proud. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And the minute I saw this, I decided to bring my students. And my students are sitting in the crowd, some of them have left, but thank you for doing this. Really, it made me proud as an Iranian American girl that grew up here.
Yes.
And knows the rules.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Then we have to thank Mrs. Nushi. She's our teacher.
Thank you, Mrs. Nushin.
Yeah, thank you for bringing your students.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
See, another female role model, you know? Really.
I'm just going to remind everyone that the concert is this Saturday at 7:30. Again, it's free for students. There are also workshops every day this week. Tonight at 6 p.m. is Feminism in the East. Tomorrow at 5 p.m. is Persian and Turkish musical theory, bring an instrument. And Friday is the Whirling Dervish workshop
Come
at
and
6
be busy.
p.m.
At 6 p.m.
Yes.
Can I just say something before we end it? Finish. You want to finish announcing? Because I know Tommy's going to close it, but I just want to say thank you, Tommy. I know I have thanked you already a dozen times, but I will probably thank you at least 100 more times in the next few days. But we really don't take these opportunities for granted. Thank you to the college for hosting us, to all of the teachers and faculty we've met, and to Tommy. I mean, you took a chance, you brought us here, and I promise we won't let you down. And it makes me so proud as an American citizen, you know, to be taken into the fold like this by another American, and for you to celebrate who we are as artists and to give us this opportunity to tell our story and our journey of what brought us here. Thank you from the depths of my heart for this. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm so excited to have this here. I know you probably have a couple of things, but I would love to talk just a minute about upcoming Mosaics things. So this project goes through the spring of 2019. So we have 2 entire academic years to bring things to you. And we do have some exciting things coming up. You can get information on our website, but let me just give you a sort of a quick thumbnail. In January, we have another visual artist. Her name is Sohaila Azadi. She lives in Chicago, and she teaches both at the School of the Art Institute and at Elmhurst College. And she is an installation artist and a performance artist, and she is a feminist artist as well. And her work is fascinating, a little confrontational, but it definitely sparks dialogue. So since she's local, she'll be coming out at least once or twice to do workshops on campus. Then in March, on March 24th, we have a wonderful performance called Street Science, a celebration of hip-hop culture. We have the headliner is Omar Effendum, who many of you may know. Omar is an awesome performer. We also have a duo called The Reminders, a dancer named Amira Sackett, and then Assad is going to be the DJ for that event, so he'll be pulling it all together. All of them, Omar Effendum will be here for the full week prior to the performance. The Reminders will also be here for several days, and then both Assad and Amira live in Chicago, so they'll be able to come out perhaps more often. In April, we have a filmmaker named Qasim Bashir who is coming to screen his film that's called Muslim, and we'll be here for 2 days talking, particularly touching on the Black Muslim experience, which is something that we feel is very important for our students and our community to understand. So he'll be here in April. And then we do have a little bit of a preview for the 18-19 school year. We have 2 commissions. We are commissioning 2 new works. we're commissioning a new choreographic work that Amira Sackett will put on a company called the Chicago Dance Crash. We've asked her to put together a full, we call it a ballet because there's no other word for it, a one-act hip-hop ballet that somehow or other describes her personal journey as an American woman who converted to Islam and became a major hip-hop artist and a force in the hip-hop world. And then we're tremendously excited by the second commission. There's a wonderful theater company in Chicago called Silk Road Rising Theater Company. We're commissioning a new play that they are working on with us. There's an artist named Ronnie Malley, who many of you may know, who is going to be doing the original music. A wonderful playwright named Reginald Edmond, who's an African-American playwright in Chicago. Dr. Craig Rosen, the head of our theater department, will direct the show, and I'm producing it. And then once it's had its world premiere here in February of 2019, it will have a professional world premiere later in that season at the Silk Road Rising Theater Company. And the subject that we have chosen to focus on in this play is an exciting one to me. It's exploring the Muslim roots of the blues. So it's a subject that is tremendously fascinating and most people don't know. And part of that is also an exploration of a piece of American history that most people try to push under the carpet, which is how many of the slaves that were forcibly brought to the United States were Muslim and were forced to convert to Christianity when they came here. But they brought their Muslim traditions with them, including their music, which became the blues. So, and interestingly enough, I first ran across this on Buddy Guy's website. Buddy Guy has a page on his website about this very subject with sound clips that you can listen to. You can listen to the Islamic call to prayer and then listen to early blues, and they are nearly identical. It's truly amazing. So we're very excited that those two works will then live afterwards forever. So once the play is created, other people can produce this play, and because of this grant from APAP and Doris Duke, and because of our work here at Moraine Valley, we're going to be creating work that then will live beyond this grant period. So we're very excited by all of that, and we hope that you'll continue to check out our website, to talk to us, to look at the upcoming events. Assad is helping us for the whole program to put all of the residency work together. So we'll be bringing other artists to campus beyond the major artists. We're going to be focusing on local artists. And in fact, Ronnie Malley, who is a local artist, is going to be performing on November 30th as part of Arab Heritage Month here on the campus. So I'm bringing him in to do a 1-hour musical performance in the Student Union. So we have a lot going on. And the one thing we didn't mention is on Thursday at 1 o'clock, Loga and Azam will be in the Student Union. We're having just a casual lunch, so you can sit and chat with them. I am catering in some food, but so get there early because the food will run out really fast. But there will be free food for those who get there first on Thursday. So a chance to just casually hang out and chat with them without feeling like you're in a classroom situation. And so thank you everybody on the panel. I'm going to throw it back to Assad.
I just want to say thank you to all of you for coming and being part of this conversation. Thank you, Hannah, Dr. Wazwaz. Thank you, Loga and Azam. And of course, thank you, Tommy, for putting this all together and being the visionary behind this. Thank you to the library for hosting us and all of you guys for coming, students and staff and faculty. Thank you once again, and we'll see you on Saturday, if not before.
Thank you, Azad. Thank you, Troy.
Such a
All my life people told me that, and I've always said, just shoot.
Hello?
Hi, Rob. I'm going to end the webinar. Great job. Thanks for all your help.
Everything look good?
Yes, indeed. Thanks and
All right,
goodbye.
Thank you. Take care. All right.